Hello, my brother. Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. Today is already feeling like an amazing day. I got my bulletproof coffee in hand. I got 8 hours of sleep last night, and according to my Oura Ring, 1 hour and 45 minutes of deep sleep, which for me is a big night because I average basically 1 hour of deep sleep, which is my about year-long average. My sister Mary averages over 2 hours of deep sleep, and she sometimes drinks coffee. Like we had this FaceTime call a few weeks ago where she was drinking caffeinated coffee, not decaf coffee, at 9 p.m. on a Friday night, and then the next morning she sent me her Oura Ring sleep stats. The woman slept for 1 hour and 45 minutes of deep sleep while caffeinating before bed, and I jumped through all these hoops. Anyway, I don't want to get down the negative path here. I got 1 hour and 45 minutes of deep sleep last night, feeling really good. And then in about an hour and a half, the Great Man Mastermind guys are getting together to do a virtual workout led by our friend Chloe Corpus, who's an Equinox instructor. She's a former, I think, Los Angeles Lakers dancer and Knick City dancer too. And she's kicked our ass before, and so we're looking forward to that today. I wanted to share with you some of my favorite quotes from one of the most influential books of my life, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Now, Elizabeth Gilbert became famous for Eat, Pray, Love. I think that book has sold over like 13 million copies. It became a movie with Julia Roberts. I don't know. I haven't read the book. I haven't seen the movie. But her book, Big Magic, is all about how to create while living beyond fear. I've read this book 2 times through. Last year, I brought it with me to Colorado when I rented the cottage in the woods for 6 days with no cell phone service, no Wi-Fi. And I tore through this book in like 2 days. And I pulled out many of my favorite quotes that I want to share with you. And these are all from just the first 20 pages of the book. Okay, so these are Elizabeth Gilbert's words about creating, about living a magical life, about navigating fear. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures that are hidden within you? Surely something wonderful is sheltered inside of you. The universe buries strange jewels deep within us all and then stands back to see if we can find them. The courage to go on that hunt in the first place, that's what separates a mundane existence from a more enchanted one. I am talking about living a life that is driven more strongly by curiosity than by fear. A creative life is an amplified life. It's a bigger life, a happier life, an expanded life, and a hell of a lot more interesting life. Argue for your limitations, and you get to keep them. My fear became boring to me because it was the same thing every day. It seems to me that my fear and my creativity are basically conjoined twins, as evidenced by the fact that creativity cannot take a single step forward without fear marching right alongside it. I've noticed that when people try to kill off their fear, they often end up inadvertently murdering their creativity in the process. Those are from the first, I think it's 25 pages in Big Magic. And I know exactly what Elizabeth Gilbert is talking about because the life that I'm living now over these last 4 years or so, in this new world that I've charted for myself after leaving corporate, has been reliant heavily upon my ability to create books, create presentations, create podcast content, to create community like the Great Man Mastermind, to create retreats. I remember being a kid and I would create all the time. It was just like I would make up a game, I would draw, I would build, Legos, I would create all the time. And then something happened when like formal schooling started where that creativity, that creative muscle just started to atrophy. And then that got reinforced over the course of time. There were bursts here and there where I would feel creative, but primarily I know what it was like to live from a state of anxiety or fear, right? Of not making enough money, of not propelling high enough in the corporate space of not looking good and looking bad, because creativity, holy shit, like there are very few rules around do this and then that will be loved or that will be appreciated. The artists, the creators, oftentimes, like, we don't know what you're going to like or respond to. We have to just calibrate to what we think feels good for us. And that can be vulnerable. But she's absolutely right. Living from a place of creativity is an absolutely more energizing, exciting life. And I do know what it was like to live in a place of fear where it would just be boring, because that was living into a future of just more of the same over and over and over again. So thank you, Elizabeth Gilbert, for your amazing wisdom. And that's a book that I plan on revisiting regularly. All right, we're at the time where it's the Sunday Roundup edition. And what I do here is I go back to each of the episodes that we released this week to give you a high-level overview to either reinforce the learning of what you had heard already, because that's one of the ways that you learn is to hear repetition. Or if you haven't listened to the episodes this week, it gives you a chance to kind of get a sense of the overview and dive in and go back. So on Monday, I released a long-form episode. This was with Brian. So we did an hour-long episode interviewing my coach, David Waldis. So for the last 2 years, David Waldis has been my personal coach, and we've spoken weekly, without fail, for the last 100 consecutive weeks. I spoke to him last night. He's been an essential guide on my journey in so many areas. It's been through my work with David that I stopped running a business, and he's helped me to build a movement with a big mission to inspire 10 million men to walk the path of inner work over the next 10 years. And he's also helped me to understand how to build a life where I can pursue massively important work and, this is a clincher, experience joy in the journey, which is a huge game changer for me and for many men. So I would encourage you to listen to that episode. And some of the highlights in there were, he talks about why it's misguided to want to go back to normal after COVID and how you can start to architect an elevated new future instead. We talked about why men are experiencing the dip in motivation right now in this midway point during quarantine, and how to use this concept of taking the next right action will make everything in your life easier and more impactful. And what we mean by the next right action is, instead of building these master plans of 5 years out and then, backing into all of the goals and the action steps over the course of time and making something so regimented, to learn how to do the opposite of that, which is to feel into, in this moment, what is the next right action? What does the energy of this moment call for? What do I feel is right in my gut, in my heart, in my instinct, in my mind? And I have learned that practice through David over these last 2 years. It's made my life faster, more energizing, and a lot less emotional and mental grind. On Tuesday, I released an episode called Design Your Optimal Workday. This is one of the shorter episodes, solo episode that I've recorded. And a great man knows that if he's going to live the rest of his life, where at the end of his life, taking his last breath on earth, knowing that he lived his fullest potential, that's not just going to happen by chance or by some big miracle. That happens by living each day with a sense of intentionality and purpose. A great man designs his optimal day and lives that optimal day because he knows that days win the week, weeks win the month, months win the year, years win the decade, decades win a lifetime. That's why we have to get more intentional and focused around how we design our day. And so specifically, I honed in on the work day itself, right? Not just like a Saturday, a Sunday, a work day in particular. And I asked you 3 questions about how your work days are currently designed. Number 1, is your day structured to support your best energy? Is your day structured to support your best energy? Meaning, if you're most creative in the morning, do you have time blocked in the morning to focus on creative endeavors? Or conversely, like, is the end of your day where you get a lot of energy after everyone goes to sleep, is your day structured to support your best energies aligned with the most important tasks? Most people haven't thought about their days in this way. Question number 2, Is your day structured to facilitate the execution of your most important work? Right? Like, do you know, first of all, what your most important work is today and tomorrow and the next day? And is your day structured to get that stuff done? Or is your day structured to just knock off all the meetings that other people have put on your calendar? This is an entirely different skill set. It's going from reactive mode, where people are blocking time on your calendar, to proactively managing your calendar and then putting time on the calendar at the proper times of the day where you can support the execution of your most important work. Even the most high performers that I see, most of them don't structure their days like this. And then third and finally, do you have regular blocks of time, big chunks of time to dedicate to your most important work? I'm talking like 90 minutes, 120 minutes, 4 hours. Do you have regular blocks of time on your calendar to dedicate to your most important work? When I was in the corporate space, there were times where I would just chunk out 2 hours of time to work on territory development, sales management, development of talent for the future. Now, as an entrepreneur, I have my entire Thursday blocked, the entire day, where I focus on the 10 million men concept. What are the big thoughts that I have? What are the big plans? What are the strategic partnerships? What do men need? I have that entire day blocked. Now, sometimes like meetings need to get scheduled and I'll put them in the afternoon, but I have that entire day blocked for sacred connection to this big mission I have in this world. And that's in alignment with how much I want this. So do you have your optimal days designed? That episode was released on Tuesday, April 21st. I'd encourage you to go back to that one. On Wednesday, April 22nd, I released an episode called Leaders Are Still Screwing This One Thing Up. The number one reason why people will resist your leadership is distrust. People will distrust your leadership if they don't believe that you have their best interests at heart. And the most obvious way to demonstrate that you don't have their best interest at heart is if you fail to see, acknowledge, or understand what's important to them. And during this COVID era, I'm still seeing smart leaders failing to see, acknowledge, and understand the people that they lead are experiencing very different experiences during this process. And I read to you a extraordinarily well-written piece by a woman named Chelsea Kawai, who contrasts how varying degrees of experience are happening for people during this quarantine era. Some people are having a grand old time. Introverts, some people's businesses are thriving. Some people have a much needed rest, an opportunity to connect with family. But then there are other people at the other end of the spectrum who've lost family members, or whose family members are sick, or whose businesses have been completely wiped out, right? Understanding that the people in your ecosystem, who you're talking to, who your social media followers are, right? They're all experiencing the entire gamut. And if you go out with a message that just speaks to one without acknowledging the others who may be suffering, then there's a form of unconscious awareness. It's unconsciousness. It's not even awareness. It's a lack of awareness that can cause other people to look at you and say, you don't understand my situation. And that can cause distrust, whether that's people that are following you in social media or people that you lead at work. So I read a really wonderful, like I said, written piece by Chelsea Kawai that will help to really kind of get a deeper sense for the vast variety of experiences people are having, so you can become a more conscious and well-rounded leader during this time that people can trust. On Thursday, I released an episode called Design Your Morning Routine, a Quick Guide. So Brian and I did an episode about a year ago called 11 Ideas to Design Your Morning Routine, which has persisted as one of the most useful and popular episodes that you continue to download. And I put together a shorter form, 25-minute version, and I hit on a couple of different elements that we didn't talk about a year ago. And your morning routine is so important because it's like the rudder of your ship. It determines the quality of your 16, 17, or 18 waking hours that follow, which really are important if you want to design your optimal workday, which is what we talked about just a few minutes ago. But most men have never consciously designed their morning routines. And if you're going to win your day or have any chance of it, Your morning routine needs to start strong. It's the rudder of your day. A great man knows that he must win the day if he plans to win his life. And winning the day starts with designing your morning routine. So in that episode, I talk about the 3 benefits that a good morning routine will produce in your life, 10 questions to assess the quality of your present day morning routine. So it's like a self-assessment. I ask you 10 questions so that you can rate the quality of your present day morning routine, and then 3 simple steps to design your morning routine. That's an awesome episode for you to listen to personally, but it's also great to listen with your partner, spouse. It's also an excellent one to pass along to clients who may need this during this period of time, and others, friends, anyone that you think could use a bit of structure in their daily life right now. Friday, I released an episode called 3 Lessons I Learned from Coaching Women. Okay, so we've all heard the adage that behind every great man is a woman. But fellas, it's high time for behind every great woman is a man helping her light to shine. Right? It is time for behind every great woman is a man helping her light to shine. And in that episode, I share with you 3 lessons I've learned from coaching and running retreats for high-performing women in male-dominated businesses. And at the end of that episode, I also give you access to this limited edition podcast series that I created completely separate from The Great Man Within. It's for women specifically. I interviewed 14 really powerful women and got their stories about how they beat burnout, overcame feelings of not good enough, how they designed the best year of their life. And that is available. It's a private soundtrack. It's available at doinnerwork.com/resources. doinnerwork.com resources tab. And that's also where we have all of our book lists, downloadable meditations. Gentlemen, I would encourage you to go there and listen to a few of those episodes so that you can understand and get a deeper lens into what it's like to be a woman working in male-dominated businesses and how you can become a better advocate and a better leader and supporter and ally of the women in your life. And this is also seeding the episode that we're going to be releasing tomorrow with Rashana Bide, which is how to become a better male ally in the workplace, which is a can't miss episode. And then finally, on Saturday, April 25th, I released the episode called Don't Mistake Compulsion for Drive. I'm going to read to you a quote from King Warrior Magician Lover by Robert Moore. Here's what he says. Compulsive personalities are workaholics, constantly with their noses to the grindstone. They have a tremendous capacity to endure pain, and they often manage to get enormous amounts of work done. But what is driving their nonstop engines is deep anxiety. They have a very slim grasp on their own worthwhileness. They don't know what they really want, what they are missing, and what they would like to have. Moore is describing the man that I was for most of my life. And I have compassion for that guy because he didn't know any better. But it's been on this inner work journey, only on this journey did I discover the truth that compulsion is not the same thing as drive. Drive is what you're getting from me now. I know what it is that I'm meant to do here in this world, and I come from a place of conscious intention. Compulsion was where I used to operate coming from fear, taking on clients that I didn't align with because it brought me money, building a business that was smaller, playing smaller games than I was capable of playing because I was worried about income and finances and all the other things, right? Drive is something very different. It's that deep burn. It's that connection to your inner source of power that allows you to live that life where at the end of my life, I know if I continue on this path, I will take my last breath knowing that I played this game full out, that I lived to my fullest potential. Compulsion would never lead me to that place. So take a look inside and see which one is driving you, compulsion or drive. All right, I wanted to close out this Sunday review episode with a shout out to one of our listeners who left us an awesome review on Apple Podcasts. I don't know your name because it looks like the name is 550,000. I didn't know you could use a number for your name, but it says, Dominic and Brian, are showing up and leading men and women on the path to discovering and fostering the great man within. Every episode is an adventure in healthy masculine curiosity as they guide you through the perils and many faces of drift, which ultimately keeps us from showing up for those we care about, our communities, and ourselves. Their wisdom, coupled with expert guests and ability to show strength through vulnerability, makes this podcast a must for anyone desiring to become the best version of yourself. Thank you, 550,000. If you have a real name, I'll say it next time. I appreciate you. And if you are feeling compelled to drop a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be amazing. It looks like we're approaching 100. I think we're at 85 right now. It'd be awesome if you could help us tip over the 100 mark because for whatever reason, that feels significant. And if you've been getting value, that would be one way to put a stamp on this so that other people could see that this episode or this podcast is worth listening to. Have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to live the great man within you.